Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, my first guest this morning is Owen Clifford, Head of Retail Sector with Bank of Ireland. Owen, we'll be discussing how the pandemic has accelerated change within the retail sector. But first, I'd like to hear more about your role within Bank of Ireland.
My role is to be an advocate for retailers, Carl, within both Bank of Ireland and in the external market. And in my role, I'm part of a sectors team in Bank of Ireland where we've all been recruited from industry. We know and understand our sectors because we've all worked in them. And so, just to give an example, some of my colleagues have worked in the likes of Dalata, Hikwa, Boyne Valley, the Farmers Journal. We aren't bankers, but we're actively supporting bankers to support businesses within our respective sectors. And taking retail, I engage with retailers across the 26 counties, from the largest multi-brand retailers to smaller single-store operators. And I'm providing insights on market trends, supporting them with their business plan, acting as a sounding board for their strategy, and of course, helping them to secure funding for expansion, revamp, working capital. And our customers really value the fact that someone within the bank knows and understands their sector, and then ultimately being able to support them to grow and develop their business as best they can,
And of course, Owen, retailers have been through a very tough time with COVID over the past 12 months. So what financial position are most of your clients now in as a result of that?
What we're seeing is a real divergence in the performance across different subsectors. Economists are talking about a K-shaped recovery. What we're seeing is a K-shaped performance across the retail sector, where you've got some subsectors such as grocery, DIY, garden, off licenses. They're performing really, really strongly. And then you've got the likes of department stores and fashion retailers, where their subsector, it's a very, very challenging environment. Those that I mentioned at the outset, they're looking at further investment, the likes of grocery, DIY, some furniture retailers. They've seen really strong performance, and they're looking at investing in their business to see how can they further improve it, where some of the others, unfortunately, it's all about survival and how can we go from week to week and manage our cash flow appropriately. It's a real mixed bag, Carl.
And Owen, of course, we've already seen a number of very large international fashion stores close and go into liquidation over recent months. Yeah. I'm conscious that there is a lot of retailers out there today. Their doors are closed, but there's debt mounting behind them. Are you concerned about their sustainability over the next 6 to 12 months?
I think the first point to make in terms of some of the international, the high-profile fashion closures that we've seen is that COVID was probably the straw that brought the camel's back in that respect, that some of those retailers hadn't invested in their offering or in the range that they were providing to the customer. They had been taken over in many respects and some by private equity, who had gone in and expected, put a large level of debt on the business, not invest in the business, and expected to get better results. So it didn't work out. So in that respect, it wasn't really just the retail that was the malaise there. It was probably the structure behind them. And I suppose that links in to the next point in terms of around some of the burdens that are there in terms of the rental burden. Landlords are pragmatic. They know that they'll have to work with their retailers if they want to have a sustainable return from the freehold property. So what we're seeing at the moment is a number of landlords are adopting a wait-and-see approach, and it's very much mixed. It's dependent on the location, in terms of some city centre, a larger city centre, Galway, Dublin, Cork. We're seeing some of those landlords are putting in place turnover-based rents, where the rent is linked to the turnover that the retailers are generating from the individual outlet. I have to say, thankfully, most of the feedback that I'm getting from retailers around the country is that landlords are adopting a pragmatic approach. There are one or two isolated cases where they aren't, and those have been publicised in the press, but in general they're adopting a pragmatic approach. It's all about managing that cash flow over the next number of months, and again, where possible, we'll support retailers as best we can to get them to see them through into more normalised trading conditions,
And of course, Owen, you mentioned earlier about the importance of retailers investing online. But for those retailers that are clients of Bank of Ireland that are not investing online, are you continuing to support those businesses?
It's a good question. I thought the majority of people are active. Have moved online in terms of the last number of months, because it's been a real lifeline for their business, and they've had to. You have to question the long-term viability of a retailer who doesn't feel that an online offering or an online channel isn't required for their business. Again, and from a Bank of Ireland perspective, we'll take it on a case-by-case basis. But is it going to be a deciding factor? No, it wouldn't be a deciding factor, Carol. It would definitely feed into our line of thinking if somebody's looking for support, of course.
And Owen, let's say, for instance, you were the owner of a local fashion retail business in County Wexford. You've been slow to date to embrace omnichannel retailing or online retail in any way, shape or form. Talk to us about how you would now go about developing that model to maximise that omnichannel experience in a post-pandemic environment.
I think the key around that and putting myself in the shoes of that type of retailer is the scale of what's expected from small retailers in terms of the day-to-day. It has just grown exponentially in the last number of years, and where previously retailers were just interested, and I suppose their focus was on buying product and selling product and getting a margin. Now they need to be experts in terms of supply chain, in respect now health and safety with COVID, in terms of the technology from an online perspective as well. And I think a lot of those retailers, they need to tap into the supports that are already out there and to partner with people who are experts in those fields. From a business plan, there's probably 10 key areas that I'd ask them to look at when I sit down and I meet those retailers. How are they going to manage their sales? Which channels are they going to look at from a sales perspective? The customer engagement, how are they going to really engage their customers? Is it through the store? And if it's just going to be through the store and with a smaller online offering, how to maintain that through maybe social media and other means that will bring the customer into the store, and when they're inside the store have a really good experience. The staff, training their staff and developing their staff and making sure that there's different people within the business that can do different areas, and that all of the focus isn't on the owner themselves. I suppose another area is around suppliers. And look, that's at the moment, margin is key for any retailer, and having a good relationship with their suppliers. Look, if anything, Brexit has probably been a godsend for some people in the retail sector, because pre-Brexit they had to look at the supply chain and the different type of suppliers that they had, and to get that structure in place, where now they have a range of different suppliers they can tap into. But what I've seen is where retailers have been really proactive with their suppliers during COVID and making sure that they're up to date as much as possible, that they've got good discounts, and that's helped obviously their overall margin. And then look, around cybersecurity as well, that the last thing you want if they are going online is making sure that it's secure, that the payment structure is secure, and that there isn't any doubt around that, because all it takes is one bad experience from your online offering and it'll go online, as we know, very, very quickly, and then that does reputational damage. The reputation has been built up over numerous years, could be gone in one bad review.
In your opinion, do you expect appointment shopping to become more popular?
I think it will, and I think as the type of appointment shopping is especially from a regional perspective, I think it's a real way that smaller retailers can differentiate themselves with more people now working from home. I think marrying the online offering where somebody can check what's in stock, then create an appointment and know that when they go in, they're going to be dealing with somebody that fully understands the product and somebody that can educate them about the product or the service. That's going to be key. And look, I suppose we've seen a growth in that area where people now are using Zoom, and just from a DIY perspective, or some of the other online channels. It's grown exponentially where people are happy now, and they're going to local retailers because they feel we want to support local, but we're also getting that upgraded level of service. So I think there's a real opportunity for people to tap into that.
Are you encouraging retailers to sell on both eBay and Amazon?
I'm encouraging retailers to engage with their customers through all channels possible. I think if they can, if necessary, to use the likes of eBay and Amazon. Of course, they should. Yeah, they should look at that. What they provide is a platform and a showcase for some of their products. If they can do it themselves and using their own online offering, I think they should probably focus on that. But initially, for some people, using those larger platforms is appropriate because it gives them a platform to showcase what they have.
Would you recommend local retailers form partnerships or strategic alliances, or even networking groups that meet regularly to bridge any skill gaps?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and it's something that I always would suggest. And I have engaged over the last number of years with numerous chambers around the country and numerous working groups like that where people come together. And it's even something that I try to facilitate myself, and I have facilitated over a number of years, going into a location, asking the local retailers from an area to come together. And I found in some sectors, people are quite slow to divulge information or to divulge their learnings from different areas. Where retailers are good, they like to share and they engage and they share across, be it legislation, be it personnel issues, HR issues, all of those areas they'll share and they're good to collaborate. And I think partnership and collaboration is absolutely key for the next 12 months.
We have seen an increased number of businesses announce that they're aiming for zero carbon or carbon neutral targets. Is it important that retailers are seen as green in order to appeal to customers as well, Owen?
Absolutely, Carl. Look, it's something that all of us are becoming more conscious about, and the retailers have a strong role to play in that. And it's something that numerous retailers have made commitments to already, reducing their carbon footprint, getting to net zero by 2030. And I suppose we've seen commitments from the retailers, and us as consumers now will need to see that being put into action. And how they're going to be doing that is through reducing the level of single-use plastic within their stores by using technology effectively, better refrigeration, removing paper within the store through electronic shelf labels, that reusing water, just a whole recycling and an upcycling type of economy. The requirement to go to a more sustainable type of offering, it's not just from the Gen Zs of the world, that it's more and more of us and more of the population want to see that. We want to see a sustainable trading from SMEs and from large corporates.
And Owen, finally, what is your economic outlook for retail across rural Ireland in a post-pandemic environment?
Look, without doubt, I'm a realist. There are challenging times ahead, but I'm also very, very positive, Carl. As a retail landscape goes, we have world-class retailers. I'm always speaking to international retailers who come to Ireland, and the term they use, come on safari to see the standards and the type of offering that Irish retailers are delivering on a day-to-day basis. So I think there's also a real opportunity to onshore online. That up to 2019, early 2020, we were seeing 70% of online sales were going overseas. So retailers have an opportunity to arrest that and to bring it back to a more sustainable level. And we are seeing that and the ship is turning in that respect, thankfully. I think there's real goodwill out there to support Irish retailers. I think it's now acknowledged that they're pivotal to their local communities. And I heard a very good quote. It was Mary Portas, the retail guru, who said that I think all of us need to think of every euro that we spend as a vote for the type of community that we want. And I think if we all remember that when we're making our shopping decisions, we'll have a sustainable and vibrant retail community.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Owen Clifford, Head of Retail Sector with Bank of Ireland. And I would like to thank Owen for sharing his insights with us this morning.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast